Today's topic is complicated. That's not the topic, but it's complicated. It's about, well, I started with count your good, right? We think, count it all good is a nice, strong, kind of new thought idea. And I was thinking, you've probably heard the quote from Meister Eckhart about if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that's enough. Or you might remember Bing Crosby. When you are worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep. Right? Yeah. I don't know about that. I know we consider them wise people, but is it really realistic to think that that's enough? Maybe at the most base or at the most deep level, that's true. But we know that, so there's the absolute realm of things that are true beyond everything. And then there's the world that you and I live in. Where what seems true, but it's temporary. What's not absolute. And that world, maybe just counting your blessings might not be enough. In that world, just being grateful might not be enough. So you may have heard this proverb, Chinese proverb. Once upon a time, there was an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day, his beloved stallion ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. Such bad luck, they said sympathetically. You must be so sad. We'll see, said the farmer. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. How wonderful, the neighbors exclaimed. Not only did your horse return, but you received 2 more. What great fortune you have. We'll see, said the farmer. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses and was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. Now your son cannot help with the farming. What terrible luck you have. We'll see, said the farmer. The next week, military officers came to the village to conscript young men into the military. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. The neighbors congratulated the farmer on how well things had turned out. Such great news! You must be so happy. The man smiled to himself and said, we'll see. See, I like that because we try to say so often that something, we hear say, it's all good. And it seems kind of like a cop-out, right? It seems like if you're sitting in a place where things aren't all good, or they don't feel all good, even if we know that maybe in the absolute realm that all the things that are happening right now are will pass, right? But that doesn't mean that it doesn't feel like things aren't good in this moment, right? If there's our bank account balance is 0, or we just lost a loved one, or whatever, all the stuff, right? All the stuff of life that, sure, it's happening sort of in this, world that we live in, but it doesn't feel good, right? So someone says, oh, it's all good. You kind of want to maybe make an obscene gesture at them, right? Because you're like, that is not my experience right now, right? So that's why we, if we think about this, old farmer, it's like, okay, well, things are happening. If we could just get to the place where we're like, well, we'll see. Because as soon as we decide to call something good, then maybe there's a part of us that wants to have a duality with that and call something bad. But those are still just judgments, right? I get nervous would people want to make things, it's all good? So I'm like, first of all, it's not compassionate to people who are not experiencing that in their lived experience. Second of all, it misses some important parts. So that's why, just saying, oh, well, we'll just count our blessings and call it all good is enough. And I'm not sure that it is. But it's okay, we're going to get there. So I was thinking about this, because we want to get to that lived experience of goodness or blissness, right? We want to experience bliss. We want to live from bliss, right? That sounds like a really good idea. I mean, understanding that to have that feeling, we also have to have something to compare it to, right? That's unfortunate, but true. And, our loved ones are going to pass away. We're not going to make the whatever it is that we wanted, the list or the whatever. I mean, that's part of the experience of life. That's what makes the good things so good. But I was thinking about what can we do with that idea. Okay, if we want to count our good, which sounds like a good idea, there's a lot, I've told you, gratitude journals are a great idea. But what do we do with that to really take the next step? So, of course, tomorrow is the day we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and if you were wondering, the season of peace and nonviolence, the reason those dates are the dates is because it's the assassination of MLK and the assassination of Gandhi is the dates that works through. So I hadn't read this much of the letter from the Birmingham jail. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's really long, but there's a couple of paragraphs here that I think are really, really work with where something to think about. So here we go. More basically, I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. Just as the prophets of the 8th century BC left their villages and carried their "Thus saith the Lord" far beyond the boundaries of their hometowns. And just as the Apostle Paul left his village of Tarsus and carried the gospel of Jesus Christ to the far corners of the Greco-Roman world, so I am compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my own hometown. Like Paul, I must constantly respond to the Macedonian call for aid. Moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Justice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You've probably heard that line before, but have you heard the one after it? We are caught in an unescapable network of mutuality, tied to a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. That, to me, is very exciting, and it is what I believe. So, speaking of the good, right, we know that there is injustice happening in the world, happening in our own communities, right? And it can be, I don't know about you, but when it can feel very heavy. It can feel very heavy when we start noticing. And so one way to not feel that heaviness is to just be like, well, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just going to go about my life because it's so heavy. It's a natural reaction to want to move away from things that hurt, right? The fire's hot, we move our hand out of it. That's normal. However, like he's saying, he showed up there, because earlier in the people were asking why is he here in Birmingham, and he's like, I'm here because this is where I need to be, right? And so I don't know where, I mean, we all have our own journey and the things that call to us. For some, different things are the things that spark our hearts, our deep things that are our things. And that's good that we all have different things, because there's a lot of things to be done. So it may be that there are certain things, the things that really spark your heart, where it is yours to go and do and show up for. You know, the showing up for things. But we can't show up for all the things. So here I'm going to bring it all back around, and it's not going to be a downer. Okay. So there's an action step. And here is an action step and a daily practice and something to make it a little bit less of a sad thing, because it is important for us as global citizens to pay attention and notice when there's things that are going on that aren't working for other people in the world, and do something, right? But so here's something that I've started to do, and I'm sharing it with you because I can tell you how amazing is it that this morning I got up in my warm house and I went and got in a hot shower, and there was pretty much an unlimited amount of hot water for me to take my hot shower with, because I have that kind of water heater. Clean water that I could, if it got in my mouth, I didn't need to worry about getting sick. All of these things. It's amazing, right? So when I get in that hot shower, I go, wow, I feel so grateful. Not just that I have it, but then I also think about sending that idea of whatever it is that I have, that I really have, grateful for that, and wanting for everyone to be able to have that, right? And so we were talking this morning about having the heated garage and how great it is when it's so cold. And now maybe it's not that our desires for everybody to have a heated garage. Obviously not everybody in the world needs a heated garage, right? And maybe not everybody even needs a garage, because not everybody needs a car. It'd be great if we lived in a world where less people needed cars, right? But what is, like, let's break that down. Like, to feel that gratitude and holding that idea that everyone in our world could have safe and reliable transportation, whatever that looks like, that's appropriate for them and where they live and their socioeconomic status. What if it meant being grateful that we have a safe place to, you know, have our things. That's what a garage is. In theory, a safe place to put our stuff. Right? And, you know, when we go home and we have a loving spouse or in a healthy relationship where we have wonderful friends who support us and bring us up, lift us up, and call us higher, we feel gratitude because not everybody has those things. But instead of being like, well, you know, I'm one of the lucky few, let's see a world where everyone has those things, right? Because that's what we want, right? The song, peace, peace, let it begin with me, right? Healing the world, let it begin with me. Let me see in my having gratitude for these things, I am putting out that energy of that being the way that the world is. Not feeling bad that I have those things, because then we're putting that kind of energy into it. Why would we do that, right? We can all have these things. We live in an abundant universe. There is no amount of end of abundance. Right? Yes, there's no amount of end to the abundance of the universe. So we can see that everyone has those, their basic needs met, their spiritual needs met, their emotional needs met, their safety needs met, all of that, right? We can see that. And so that is the call to action. So that each thing that you are grateful for, that you can use your power of imagination to see that everyone in our world, humans and animals and trees and plants, all of them, insects even. There's a part of me wants to say you can skip cockroaches, but we'll move on from that. that everyone has their needs met. Right? And so we can use our power of imagination to see that, to start being that vibration in our world. That's part of what we do with our Healing Power of 8 circle, is seeing that truth for one of the people in our circle. And we can do that in our daily lives. So when you get in your nice hot shower, and I actually don't like my shower super hot, but you know what I'm saying. I can just turn it on, right? I don't have to go get a bucket. I don't have to go fill it. I don't have to do any of that stuff. And like I said, I don't have to worry about, any funky things in my water or anything. It's great. How amazing is that? Wouldn't it be great to have that level of simplicity for basic needs for everyone in the world, so that they could do other things with their time? It's, people spend a lot of time worldwide taking care of some of those basic needs. So we can't solve all the problems of the world. It's certainly something to consider what is mine to do. Maybe it's to donate to a certain cause that you feel a lot about. Maybe it's to volunteer at the pet shelter. Maybe it's whatever it is that's yours to do. Maybe, I don't know. You know in your heart. You know. But we can all, so we do those things, but we can also, when we see all the other things going on in the world, we can do this next step of practice, this practice of gratitude, extreme gratitude. Using our power of imagination to believe, not just imagine what it could be, but to believe that it is true and possible and happening. If you go to the beach and it's a beautiful beach, imagine all the beaches of the world clean and safe, right? Yeah.